Hundreds of cursed Japanese soldiers revealed in a sinister swamp, the terrifying mystery exposed. Rachel's heart pounded like a drum as she left the diner that night. Shadows loomed and twisted among the trees that bordered Wraith Hollow, the town's cursed swamp. It was as if the dense fog rolled in just to wrap around her like a vice. Whispers of lost souls haunted this place, and as she gripped the steering wheel, she remembered Mr. Thompson's vice-like grip as he warned everyone in town. Cursed soldiers drifted through the swamp, unseen but very much there. A chill ran down her spine, and she forced herself to focus on home, on her kids. The flickering lights just ahead sent an icy thrill through her. Rachel felt her breath hitch, her heart raced. They danced ominously through the trees, inviting yet terrifying. She turned her gaze away, convincing herself it was just her imagination. After all, midnight was full of tricks. But the stories played in her head like a warped record, the veteran's warnings echoing in her ears about souls trapped in the swamp, unable to escape. She pushed the thought aside, but the heaviness clung to her, gnawing at her sanity. As days fell into one another, the atmosphere grew thick with mounting dread. Emma and Tyler would awaken shrieking, their little bodies trembling in bed, convinced shadows stalked them at night. "Mommy, they're outside," they cried. Rachel would rush to their side, reminding them it was all just a weird dream. But deep down, the bones in her body screamed differently. The echoes of dread enveloped their home, and each time she tucked them back in, it felt as if the shadows were weaving a web around their family, tightening ever so slowly. Then, while digging up weeds in the backyard one afternoon, she discovered them. Scattered pieces of her husband's belongings, an old keychain, a ripped photograph buried as if someone was desperate to hide a truth. Panic surged, drowning her in despair. How was this possible? He had claimed to leave everything behind, she screamed internally, clutching a crumpled picture of him now stained by the damp earth. A sinister artifact lay beside it, its twisted form whispering dark promises of memories best left unturned. And then, the true terror struck. Tension had reached a boiling point when news exploded in Willow Creek. Several residents had gone missing, their trails leading directly to Wraith Hollow. Fear gripped the community, and those once smiling faces now turned into furrowed brows and clenched fists. Rachel felt the walls close around her. She knew they were connected, that the swamp was calling, beckoning her into its maw of treachery and despair. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Determinedly, Rachel knew she couldn't hide anymore. As the sun dipped below the horizon, she made her way to the swamp, heart hammering, every instinct screaming in protest. The cool air was heavy with dread, and the stench of decay loomed in the air like a thick blanket. Blood pounded in her ears, drowning out her thoughts. Each step felt like treachery, leading her deeper into danger. When she reached the dark edge of the water, an unsettling calm hung over the surface. Suddenly, the whispers returned, ghostly and chilling, "You should never have come here." The words brushed against her skin, sending frozen tendrils of terror coursing through her body. Gripping the photograph of her husband, she realized that whatever haunted this swamp was about to unleash secrets she wasn't prepared to confront. Where had he gone? And were the spirits lurking here connected to his disappearance, or was this a battle for her children's very souls? As she stared into the dark depths, the swamp seemed to bubble, ready to unveil horrors that would change everything. The water rippled, an ominous anticipation thickening the air around Rachel. She squinted into the darkness, half expecting something she didn't know what to break the surface. With each passing moment, the silence felt like it was pressing down on her, heavy enough to crush her spirit. The whispers morphed into harsh cackles, taunting her for daring to intrude. "Don't look away," they beckoned, their voices weaving through the cold night air. She felt an overwhelming urge to run, to flee back to her children, but something kept her rooted to the spot. Was it curiosity? Or fear? She couldn't tell anymore. Just then, something shifted in the water. A hand, or what she thought was a hand, broke through the murky surface, claws reaching for the sky. Rachel's breath caught in her throat. No, it couldn't be. She blinked hard, trying to shake off the creeping dread wrapping around her. But as the moonlight filtered through the clouds, revealing the outline of a soldier, her heart fell to her stomach. Tattered rags hung from its body, a grim echo of what once was. The figure turned, its ghastly face partially obscured, but she felt the gaze on her as if its hollow eyes could pierce through her very soul. The whispers crescendoed, a chilling chorus that seemed to emanate from the soldier. They come for you, they always come. Fear clawed at Rachel's insides. This was not the stuff of nightmares, this was real. Who were they? Why were they trapped here? As if in response to her thoughts, the figure took a step forward, water swirling around its feet, a tortured expression etched on its disintegrating visage. A shudder ran through her. This soldier bore the weight of 1,000 sorrows, and Rachel felt them pressing down on her as though they were hers. No! She cried, backing away. Leave me! But the swamp responded, the ground beneath her feet quaking, pulling her toward the churning depths. Suddenly, the sound of her children screaming echoed through her mind. Emma and Tyler, their voices shrill and filled with terror. The realization jolted her back to her grim reality. I want to let you take them. She screamed, forcing herself to turn away from the figure and bolt into the encroaching darkness, deep into her own desperation. The whispers followed her, growing louder, as if enraged at her defiance. The macabre laughter echoed around her. The swamp began to ripple again, worse than before, the water boiling, like some monstrous creature poised to wake. Rachel stumbled, embracing the fear gripping her heart. She had to save her kids. They were still home, oblivious to the horror lurking just outside their window. Just as she regained her footing, she heard a more distinct sound chanting, rhythmic and hypnotic. It swirled through the trees, luring her back. A flicker of light caught her eye just beyond the nearest grove of trees. Was it a way out? Or more deception? Either way, she had to know. As she approached, heart racing, she suddenly froze. The figures gathered there were not just soldiers, they were countless lost souls, their faces twisted in agony. And in the center, a stone monument loomed, an eerie sacrifice drenched in ancient symbols invoking dread. What truth lay behind this grotesque gathering? Why did they beckon her, as if she was somehow part of their cursed destiny? Pulse pounding, Rachel drew closer, curiosity battle with terror. The darkened chant grew louder, vibrating through her bones, commanding her attention. The air turned electric, tainted by a sinister promise of revelations waiting to unfurl, but just as she reached the edge, a deafening roar erupted from the depths of the swamp, shaking the ground under her feet. Rachel stumbled back, wide-eyed with horror. What had she awoken? The whispers echoed loudly in her head, now a unified call, join us, join us. The ground trembled angrily, threatening to split open, and at that moment, she realized the truth. Something awakened was coming for her and her children. As darkness enveloped her surroundings, Rachel faced the choice, dive deeper into this malevolent world or flee. And risk losing everything she held dear. The air crackled around her, the choice looming painfully clear. What would she choose? And what would be the cost? Rachel's heart raced as she stumbled back from the looming figures, their chanting echoing in her mind. The darkness behind her felt like a tangible presence, pressing against her, urging her to scream. She could already hear the whispers crescendoing into fury, the mood shifting like the choking humidity in the air. The dread was suffocating. As the ground trembled, she caught sight of something crawling out of the swamp. More hands, more arms, reaching, grasping, as if they were underwater, desperate to be pulled back down. Her breath hitching, Rachel backed away, instinct screaming for her to get farther from the cursed gathering. But the shrieks of her children rang through her mind again. Emma and Tyler, their safety was everything. The gathering behind her was horrifying, but she could sense that whatever lurked in the depths wanted to enslave her spirit. She felt the pull of dread, the allure of joining those lost souls who cried for her. They were not just soldiers, but the remnants of lost innocence, ensnared by darkness. No! She shouted at the swamp, now filled with an unbearable tension, as if it would swallow her whole if she dared to hesitate. The ground began to part with a loud cracking noise, little fissures snaking through the mud as if the earth were alive and hungry. "Flee!" Something within Rachel commanded. She turned sharply, the flicker of light still bright against the backdrop of shadows. It beckoned her, almost like a lighthouse in tumultuous waters. But she had to choose wisely. The swamp was deceiving, a labyrinth of despair. Running blindly, she barely dodged grasping tendrils of fog that snaked around her like fingers desperate for a grip. Desperation clawed at her. Each step felt heavy, every footfall muffled by the thick, wet ground. The chanting grew fainter, but the call of those souls lingered at the edges of her mind, relentless and taunting. With her heart pounding, Rachel plunged through the curtain of trees. She skidded to a halt when an ear-splitting roar echoed behind her, tearing through the air a horrid sound that held the promise of violence. The ground heaved, as if the swamp itself was purging the spirits trapped within. Clutching her throat, she fought against the encroaching fear. "I must save my kids," she gasped, pushing forward, deeper into the thicket. The flickering light danced just ahead, a wraith-like form that seemed to twist and warp. Was it drawing her in? Or was it leading her to more horror? In the depths of her terror, she fleetingly wondered if the flicker could be her salvation or another layer of the trap. She paused to catch her breath, panting heavily in the still night air. Adrenaline surged through her veins, but as she leaned against a tree, she could feel the damp bark beneath her clammy palms pulse with life. It was as if the entire forest was watching her, waiting for her next move. Then, out of the shadows, she heard a murmur, one that was clear but chilling. "If you seek your children, join us. We offer freedom for a price." Rachel's heart sank. The whispers had returned with a haunting promise. What did they want from her? The flickering light dimmed, and the shadowy figures, once menacing, seemed to pulse with life, urging her to come closer, to embrace the dark terror they embodied. She closed her eyes, torn between hope and despair. Was she strong enough to resist their pull? And if she gave in, what fate awaited her children? As the mist engulfed her, tightening like a noose, she wondered would she sacrifice herself for those she loved, facing her own doom to ensure their safety? The choice loomed even more daunting. Then a distant scream pierced the air. Her children. Rachel's eyes flew open, and in that moment, clarity sliced through the panic. They needed her. But at what cost? In that fraught instant, every instinct screamed at her to leap into the unknown, to chase after the flicker of salvation, or risk losing them forever. With the forest closing in, and the swamp heaving with anger, she leaped forward, the pull to the light igniting a new terror within her. Was she stepping into the threshold of madness? Or was hope still there, shrouded in darkness? What awaited her as she crossed that thin line? Rachel's feet pounded against the ground, and the world around her morphed into a blur of shadows and panic. The light ahead flickered like a candle caught in a gust, both inviting and menacing. Each step closer felt like a dance with dread. The sticky air clung to her skin, infiltrated by a rancid stench that burned in her nostrils. It was rotten, decayed, like the very essence of the swamp seeped into her. She stumbled over roots and brambles, the forest gnashing at her ankles. No time. Not now. She forced her legs to push faster, to move beyond the sickening grip of the swamp. Then, as if sensing her panic, the sound of churning water erupted behind her. Something large was moving, breaking through the murky depths. Rachel dared a glance over her shoulder, and her heart lurched. A monstrous shape bobbed to the surface, a grotesque collection of limbs and faces twisted in horror. They stared at her with vacant eyes, mouths agape in silent screams. Were they the souls of the lost ones? The very spirits who had called out to her? Her pulse quickened, thrumming in her ears like a war drum. "Help," one of them whispered, the word a soft exhale that felt like ice against her skin. The sound trailed off into a gurgle as another hand emerged, clawing at the air. They were reaching for her, pleading and demanding all at once. No! She screamed, forcing her gaze forward again. The light flickered, its intensity wavering as if startled by her outcry. She pressed on, but the shrill desperation of those hands tugged at her heart, wanting her to succumb to their fate. Rachel's resolve wavered, pain coiling inside her stomach. Suddenly, she perceived movement on her left, a figure emerging from the darkness, one she hadn't seen before. It stepped forward with confidence, and the light revealed a man, his clothes tattered, wild hair cut ragged. "You shouldn't be here," he yelled, eyes wide with horror. Rachel halted, disbelief flooding through her. "Who are you?" she gasped, her mind racing. "Get away. They'll take you," he shouted, pointing toward the darkness. "I lost my family to this nightmare. They'll trap your mind, ensnare your spirit." His words felt like spread fingers, reaching out to catch her before she too was doomed. Tyler. Emma. She had to keep searching, had to keep fighting for them. But the man grabbed her arm, desperation etched on his face. "You don't know what you're doing. They're hungry for souls." His grip was fierce, and for a moment, she felt torn between the promise of salvation and the horror of the truth. The churning behind them grew louder. The swamp roared, and Rachel could see the silhouettes of more figures, rising from the depths, wrathful and insatiable. The air thickened with malice, she could taste the darkness, bitter and foul. With a surge of instinct, she broke free from the man's grasp and barreled ahead toward the flicker of light, refusing to be haunted by the lost souls. She would not give in. She had to find her children. The duel between hesitation and determination surged within her as she surged toward the glow, but as she drew closer, the light flickered and dimmed, and the whispers grew louder, clawing at her sanity. "Join us, become one." The voices twisted into an earthy hum, a melody woven from despair and longing. Rachel felt a pull, a seductive call that wrapped around her heart like stormy vines, muffling her cries for her children. She couldn't afford to relax, couldn't allow herself to be swayed. How had it come to this? While the shadows lunged and the forest seemed to constrict, Rachel's mind spiraled. The chill in her spine sent icy shivers cascading down her arms. If she stepped into that light, what would happen to her? And, most importantly, what fate awaited Emma and Tyler if she failed? A haunting realization struck her like a truck. The flickering light was not salvation, it was a trap. Fear clawed at her throat, and as she grasped those thoughts, she felt a deep uproar within the swamp, something more sinister lurking, waiting for her to make the ultimate choice. Would she embrace the darkness for the chance to save her children? In that moment, standing on the precipice of doom, Rachel made her choice. But as she reached for the light, a new voice, cold and commanding, rose above all other sounds. "Do you wish to trade one life for another?" Rachel froze. What would she choose? Rachel's heart pounded in her chest, the question hanging in the air like a blade poised to drop. Trade one life for another. The voice echoed around her, chilling her to the bone. She turned, desperate to find the source, but darkness enveloped everything. Suddenly, the silhouettes from the swamp surged closer, rising with a sinister grace. Those haunting faces twisted in agony, mouths open in silent screams, and for a moment, she thought she saw a reflection of her own fear mirrored in their eyes. Rachel swallowed hard, looking back toward the flickering light. Should she take the risk to save her children? The man from before had vanished, leaving no trace but shadows in his wake. No. She screamed into the suffocating darkness, hoping somewhere in this nightmare, Tyler and Emma could hear her. The ground trembled beneath her feet as the voices picked up like a raging storm. One life for another, come, embrace what we offer. It felt like chains were wrapping around her legs, drawing her back with indescribable strength. Visions flickered in her mind, her children, laughing, running in the sun, their faces glowing with joy. She could almost reach out and touch them, but they faded like memories scattered in the wind. Not them. Please. Rachel cried, fighting the weight of despair that threatened to pull her under. The whispers morphed again. Laughter. Sad, cruel laughter, echoing from all directions. You want to save them? One voice shrieked. What will you give? In a desperate grasp of bravery, Rachel shouted back, anything. I will do anything. Her voice resonated, filled with anguish and determination. The shadows stilled momentarily, as if taken aback by her boldness. Then she heard a soft hum breaking through the chaos. It wove around her like a thread, pulling her attention away from the torment surrounding her. A choice, it said. Make your choice. For a fleeting moment, the faces in the murky water transformed, becoming clearer. They were once whole, once alive. They were more than lost souls, they were prisoners of the swamp, unable to break free. And just as quickly, vision blurred, twisting back to terror. Save one, lose the many. With every repeating word, Rachel felt her grip on reality loosen. She envisioned Tyler and Emma's faces again, clinging to them with desperation, feeling their warmth slip through her fingers like sand. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the gloom, a woman with sunken cheeks and eyes that gleamed like embers. You will pay, one way or another, she rasped, her voice dripping with malice. But you can have what you desire. The light dimmed further, swirling tendrils of mist coiling around Rachel, urging her to take a step closer. She trembled, the weight of the decision threatening to suffocate her. How could she make a choice when it felt like both worlds were collapsing in on each other? If you give, you will receive, the figures chanted in unison, a chilling chorus rising like the gurgle of the dying. But be warned, the price may not be what you expect. The swamp around her roared to life, ripping through the silence as rancid water sprayed her face. Time hung heavy in the air, and panic seized her heart. In one agonizing moment, clarity emerged. There was urgency, desperation, a way to save them or lose them forever. What do I have to do? Rachel asked, trembling but resolute. She braced herself for the answer, every fiber of her being quaking in anticipation. The shadows stirred, converging toward her, whispering her fate. A life for a life, what will you give? Rachel closed her eyes, feeling the weight of a looming price dance on her lips. But as she prepared to speak, the ground began to tremble violently, the swamp drawing her in like a whirlpool. Would her sacrifice be enough? The riddle remained. The choice wasn't just life or death, it was entwined in darkness. But something inside her sensed that the true horror was yet to come. Would the sacrifice yield what she desired, or would it unleash unimaginable terror? In that chaos, she felt a tug on her heart, the calls of her children. And just as she steeled herself to plunge into the abyss, a terrifying question echoed in her mind. What if she had to face the darkness alone, forever? Rachel felt the ground quake beneath her, the sound like thunder rolling through the dark sky. Panic clawed at her throat, her breath quickening as the figures around her surged forward, drawn by her desperation. The faces twisted like a funhouse mirror, each one a reflection of loss and sorrow. She stumbled back, her back hitting something moist and grotesque, a tree, rotten and slick with despair. Tell me what to do. She gasped, her voice breaking through the howling wind. The swamp seemed to answer, the sounds vibrating in her bones. What must I sacrifice? Your pain for their joy. One soul for your little souls, the whisper curled like smoke, wrapping around her mind. But the choice is yours. The price is never fair. Images flashed in her vision, her children, serene and happy, a precious moment eternally captured. They're waiting for you, the shadows hissed, their unholy breath brushing against her skin. The woman with shadowy eyes stepped forward, her face eerily calm. You can take their place in return for what you love most. In her gut, Rachel felt a knot tighten, the fear now solid, pressing down on her. Take me, she spit out defiantly. Just tell me what I have to do to save them. Bravery, the shadows whispered, is linked to sacrifice and suffering. Rachel closed her eyes again, each heartbeat pulsing louder than the last, each thud reverberating in the darkness. What if she could trade her own life? What would that even mean? Was she willing to leap into the maw of the unknown? Suddenly, the ground erupted in chaos. Tendrils of muck and debris surged forth, clutching at her ankles. Panic flooded her senses. Her heart raced, tears mingling with the foul water. Tyler. Emma. She screamed, feeling like a fool for thinking she could ever summon them from beyond this nightmare. Visions of their innocent laughter filled her mind, but were quickly drowned out by the sludge of soul-crushing despair. Could they really fade away, traded for shadows in the night? What cruel trickery was this? Make your choice before the night creeps away, the woman warned, her voice echoing sharp as broken glass. The swamp is hungry, and time is running out. Rachel's hands trembled, soaked in mud and fear. She glanced inside herself and found a flicker of determination. I would die 1,000 times for them. But if someone must pay, the woman smiled, revealing teeth like daggers. So be it, dear Rachel. Shall we begin? Energy crackled in the air as darkness began to twist and swirl. The figures danced around her, jubilant shadows reveling in her growing dread. She could feel their energy drawing her in an intoxicating pull. Would she descend into their abyss, or could she rise above them? With a sudden clarity, something cold gripped her heart. What if it's not just me? She asked, her voice hoarse. What if the price could be someone else? The laughter stopped, an eerie silence setting in. Your answer is close, the woman taunted, her eyes glittering with something unspeakable. But do tread lightly. The choice you make could haunt their souls forever. Or yours. A chilling realization washed over Rachel as the tempest raged around her. Sacrifice was not merely about loss, there were stakes she had yet to comprehend. Who or what would she truly send to the shadows in exchange for her children? Rachel. The cry echoed across the void, a glimpse of hope piercing through the despair. Was it illusion, or could it be Tyler and Emma, pleading from the edge of darkness? The last question loomed large, wrapping itself around her like the mist. Could she face the unimaginable horror of choosing who would suffer? As reality began to shift, the swirling shadows pressed closer. She poised herself on the brink, the decision screaming to be made. What darkness would she embrace, and what horrors awaited her beyond the black abyss? Rachel's mind whirled as the shadows pulsed around her, a cacophony of whispers rising, merging into one dreadful clamor. Who will it be? They chanted, taunting her with each syllable. Faces twisted in horror and despair flickered at the edges of her vision. She felt their longing and their anger, a mix of grief that coalesced into something almost tangible. Make your choice. The woman with shadowy eyes leered, her smile stretching impossibly wide. It was a grin full of malice, full of teeth like sickly white tombstones glinting in the dark. Rachel's heart pounded in her chest, a primal beat urging her forward, or was it backward? She suppressed a scream as memories of her children's laughter ebbed in and out of focus, like a radio tuning into static. They were slipping away. Tyler. Emma. She called out again, desperate. It felt like a lifeline thrown in a storm, a voice drowning in the chaos. Your voice cannot reach them here, the shadows whispered sweetly, coaxing her while tightening their grip. They linger at the precipice, craving the warmth of your sacrifice. The nauseating smell of decay surrounded her, wrapping around her like a shroud. The muck beneath her feet bubbled, a bubbling cauldron of the damned, eager to welcome another soul. They beckoned her, held her tight, as if rooting for her to give in to despair. The torment rose up like bile. Is your love so profound? So selfless? The woman taunted, her eyes glowing, reflecting the moonlight that barely pierced the dark canopy. Rachel was on the edge, teetering between the weight of motherhood and the horror of sacrifice. But as she glanced into the depths of the swamp, something shifted inside her. Images of her children flooded again, Tyler's innocent curiosity, Emma's laughter like sunlight breaking through clouds. But who could pay the price? Someone must. But who? The tug of the shadows began to dull, something inside her igniting. Choose the darkness to save the light, dear Rachel. The woman coaxed, leaning in as if she shared an intoxicating secret. It could be anyone. Your mother, your sister, an old lover. The choice is deliciously yours. Rachel's breath caught, a mixture of horror and desperate clarity washing over her. A cold realization crept upon her. This wasn't just about her children. This was about her decisions echoing on. She glanced up at the night sky that was riddled with dark clouds, the moon hidden like a frightened child. What if I choose no one? What if I refuse? I want to sacrifice another to save my kids. Anger flared, igniting her determination. Ah, refuse, how delightful. The shadows danced, their laughter a chilling melody. But then, dear Rachel, you and your little souls will be forever lost. The weight of the swamp pressed in around her, the stickiness of regret and despair threatening to swallow her whole. But now, she felt anger rising up a potent force as she considered that maybe there was a third option. Maybe I can shift the balance, she thought. Maybe I could bargain. No. The shadows howled, the clawing darkness weaving in anger, clawing at her ankles. They pulled her down, groans of despair mingling with her heartbeat. Face reality. The woman shrieked, her image twisting in fury. You cannot escape. The swamp will decide. The ground shifted violently, and Rachel's heart nearly stopped as the earth beneath her quaked like it was alive. Roots and tendrils broke free, snapping at her limbs. Rachel gasped as cold fingers clutched her, pulsing with agony and sorrow. All around her, the figures, lost souls trapped in torment, began to shift and swirl. No. She cried, spilling bitter tears. I refuse to join you. Yet they surged forward, enveloping her in despair. She felt her resolve cracking as darkness lurked closer. Would she truly defy the shadows and her own fear? Could she find the strength to protect her children without sending someone to their doom? Time's up, dear Rachel. The woman's voice echoed with a haunting melody, an ominous promise. Your choice awaits before you lose not just them, but yourself. With her heart in her throat, Rachel realized the abyss was hungry and branches of despair were surrounding her. The price was steep, and she wrestled with the weight of dread and determination. But could she even sacrifice someone she had loved, someone who might haunt her forever? The shadows tightened their grasp, wrenching at her resolve. The truth loomed just out of reach, waiting to be revealed. Would her strength be enough to fight against the darkness? The storm swirled angrily as she realized the end was near. A choice had to be made, but what price would she pay to save her children? And what terrible revelations awaited her when she made it? The ground surged beneath Rachel, a heaving mass of earth and despair. She felt the cold fingers of the swamp latching onto her skin, dragging her deeper into its putrid heart. Panic clawed at her throat as shadows whispered louder, each voice more insistent, more personal. You'll never make it out. You'll never see them again. The images of her children began to fade, their vibrant laughter swallowed by the suffocating dark. No. I want to let you take them. She screamed, her words barely piercing the thick air. Choose. The woman's voice cut through the chaos, sharp and biting. Choose. Rachel felt her legs buckle beneath the weight of her resolve. The shadows were no longer just desperate souls, they were a part of her fear, her guilt, her denials wrapped under layers of darkness. I need to know. She yelled at the woman, her eyes blazing with defiance. What do you want from me? A twisted smile spread across the woman's face, her teeth glinting ominously. Choose a soul. Save your children, or condemn yourself. It's all so simple, my dear. Around her, the faces of the trapped souls materialized, each one etched with horror, their eyes pleading and accusing all at once. Who were they? Would their despair fuel the shadows' hunger? Rachel felt the terror of their fates wrap around her, squeezing the air from her lungs. Somebody has to pay. The shadows chanted, their darkness swirling in manic glee, as if the very ground was ready to swallow her whole. They were right. Someone needed to pay. But who? Glimmers of clarity flickered through her panic. Her mother had always taught her that love meant sacrifice. But what if love also meant protection? No. I want to play your game. She could almost stand tall with her conviction, but the shadows gripped tighter, their icy breath whispering dread into her ear. She can't choose. A lost soul cried, her voice breaking through the suffocating haze. She has to know the truth. The truth will decide. Rachel's heart raced. What truth? She demanded, desperate to break free from the tightening grasp. The woman leaned closer, her voice a silk-laced whisper. You want the truth. The truth is you know who deserves it. Her breath caught. Rachel was left with only memories, those moments of fury and love shared so vividly. Faces appeared in her mind, her mother, who had sacrificed so much for her, an old friend who had loved her in her childhood cat, lost before her children were born. No. She cried as images threatened to swallow her. The swamp pulsed with anticipation. I want to choose anyone. You can't compel me. Defiance will lead to their doom, the woman replied, her laughter chilling. And if they perish, it will be your fault. The weight of her choices bore down like a mountain. The fear pulsed in rhythmic thuds, it struck harder and harder, and she could feel her strength waning. The shadows surged, a pack of feral wolves closing in. Time is slipping away. How many more seconds do you need? Rachel clenched her fists, struggling to maintain her faltering grip on sanity. I refuse. I want to let you twist this into a choice. For a split second, silence enveloped them all. But the stillness was shattered by a ripping cry that echoed through the swamp. An image flashed before her, the revelation tearing through her mind like a blade. Mom, the shadows grew furious, their cacophony rising into a chaotic roar, drowning out her thoughts. The earth quaked as despair melded with fury, and Rachel was ripped from her self-imposed reverie. No. She shouted, you can't have her. But as she said it, the truth fluttered dangerously close to the surface. Did she know what she was really willing to sacrifice? Just when the whispers seemed the loudest, one voice rang clearer than the rest, make your choice, Rachel. It pierced through the murky gloom, hinting that she held the key to another, darker path. A glimmer of hope flickered within her. The weight of her choice pulsed. Was there a third option? As shadows writhed and grasped, a shiver of possibility ignited. Could she unravel this dark web without condemning anyone? Decide, the woman hissed, a predator taunting its prey. The ground quaked once more, uprooting the very fabric of her world. In that terrifying moment, Rachel stood on a precipice between light and shadow. Would she seize the chance to rewrite the grim narrative, or would darkness claim yet another innocent soul? The storm raged above, neither mother nor child safe, as echoes of the sacrifices waiting to be made tangled with a desperate hope. Would she have the strength to defy the odds and protect them all, or would she drown in despair like so many before her? The shadows deepened, swirling like a tempest around Rachel. Every heartbeat echoed in her ears, each pulse a reminder of the imminent choice hanging in the air. The woman's knife-like grin only widened, sharp teeth sparkling against the gloom. Time is slipping, the woman taunted, her voice a soft whisper that beckoned dread. Do you feel it? The lives withering, fading while you stand there paralyzed by your hesitation. The earth quaked beneath her, and for a split second, Rachel could feel her children's warmth dissipating, breaking like gossamer in a gust. She had to focus. Had to breathe. The trapped souls around her surged forward, their eyes hollow yet imploring. Each pair begged silently, choose and save us. Choose and free us. Their anguish burned through her, igniting something primal within. Rachel squeezed her eyes shut, trying to clear her mind of their desperate pleas. What if I break the cycle? She thought, grasping at the fragile thread of hope weaving through her brain. Break the cycle? Echoed the woman, as if she could taste Rachel's thoughts. Oh, my dear. Look around you. With that command, the swamp erupted in a cacophony of ghostly faces, snapping fingers, gasping mouths, and haunting whispers. Rachel forced her eyes open, desperation clawing at her throat. Images flashed before her, soldiers trapped in time, their tortured faces frozen in horror. The woman wasn't the only evil here, an entire history of untold suffering lingered in this cursed place. Generations of souls, trapped in limbo as they cursed the bonds of life and death. Are these the souls you would sacrifice? The woman leaned closer, her taunt like a searing blow. Are you willing to replace your children for a truth that only leads to more torment? Rachel recoiled. No. I won't condemn anyone. Rage surged unexpectedly, it surged through her when the truth of her reality coiled tighter. If the swamp contained the remnants of souls lost to its greedy maw, what if she could use that? What if she could negotiate? The whispers thickened, threatening to drown her in despair. They'll perish, you know that, make your choice. But within the loamy depths of her mind was a thin whisper of rebellion. Why not me? She shouted. Take me. Let them go. The words burst from her mouth, fueled by desperation unknowing of its power. The woman still grinned, yet her eyes flickered, hinting at something raw and primal. Why would I want you when I can take the whole lot, your children, their laughter, their potential? No. It bubbled up fiercely. Not my children. They deserve better. As the shadows swirled closer, entreating her with tales of sacrifice, she steadied her resolve. Then let us make a deal. She cried, her voice shaking yet determined. Release those souls trapped here, and I'll take their place. Another roar rumbled through the swamp, shadows writhed angrily in a riot of despair. The air thickened, reeking of dread and lingering death. It felt as if the very ground trembled with rage for even considering such a pact. Foolish girl. The woman hissed. What makes you think I would accept? You are but one those souls. She halted, words fading into a brooding silence as Rachel's daring proposal echoed in the void. Perhaps that's what they need, someone whispered faintly. Another soul, perhaps, or a wisp of hope within the blackness. The woman glared, her expression tight with fury. You know that once you make this deal, there's no going back. You're tethered to the darkness forever. My children will be free. Rachel declared, voice teeming with raw desperation, courage igniting something deep inside her. Then let the pact be made. Just before the ground beneath her erupted, a vision flooded Rachel's mind, a glimpse of her children laughing, unshackled by shadows. But in that moment, a shiver of truth wormed its way through her heart. This choice, could it genuinely save them, or was it just another trap? With each passing second, the ground quaked as if alive with dread, awaiting her response. Dare you risk your very essence? The woman taunted once more. Rachel steadied her breath. Would she take the leap into darkness to save her children, or would she find another way? A fractured silence loomed, punctuated only by the haunting calls of the souls around her, and in that heart-stopping moment, she realized the chilling truth: it wasn't just her fate at stake. There was an unseen force, a final revelation lurking just beyond reach. Did she truly grasp the cost of her choice, or was the swamp hiding yet another sinister truth? Rachel's breath came in ragged gasps as the shadows loomed closer, swirling around her like a tempest. The tension pierced through her chest with each pulse, fear mingling with desperation. I won't choose anyone, she shouted, voice rising like a battle cry. The swamp trembled, angry at her defiance. I'll save them by breaking the cycle. She screamed against the wailing winds. Release their souls, and take me. The moment the words left her lips, silence fell, thick and suffocating. The woman with shadowy eyes stared, caught off guard. You think so lightly of yourself? A single life to replace so many? Yes. Rachel replied fervently, her heart racing. Far more lives have been lost here than just mine. Let them go. The shadows paused, whispering amongst themselves, as if weighing the gravity of her offer. Their cacophony softened, replaced by a swirling fog that enveloped Rachel. The ground quaked beneath her, quivering like an exposed nerve. In that moment of uncertainty, pain surged through her, a sort of anguish cutting directly to her resolve. "Your choice will echo with anguish," the woman warned, her tone low yet pointed. "The swamp's hunger cannot be satiated with just one life. They have lost their way, the pact is demanding. What will you endure? This isn't just a game." Rachel shouted back, her words laced with a fierce, unyielding spirit. "I refuse to let anyone else suffer because of me. The souls trapped here deserve peace, just like my children." The shadows twisted in frustration, the jailers of despair deep in conflict. "How noble, how foolish!" they hissed, their tone mocking. "Do you think you can navigate this arena of darkness?" For the first time, doubt crept into her heart. But mere doubt was inconsequential against the warmth of her children's laughter echoing in her mind, now mere fragments, slipping like sand through her fingers. They were out there in the world, unaware of the terror enveloping them. Rachel took a deep breath, letting the chill air fill her lungs. She had come too far to retreat now. "I accept the bargain," she called out, thrusting her heart into the maelstrom of shadows. A silence enveloped her, thick as the fog that filled the swamp. Then, the woman stepped closer, her eyes flickering with interest. "Very well, dear Rachel, if you are willing to tread this path, sacrifice your essence. Together, we will pull those lost from their shackles." But Rachel was resolute. "No. I refuse to be a pawn. I trade my light for their freedom, I won't fade into darkness." With her declaration, the air around her shifted, a violent rush of energy swirled, shaking the very ground she stood on. Tendrils of darkness lashed out but couldn't reach her, bound as they were within their cursed domain. The woman leaned in, intrigued and almost mocking. "So strong-willed. But pride has its price. Where shall you take them? You must know, the light you offer dims with each promise." Rachel closed her eyes and dug deep within herself. "I'll carry them in my heart. Free them from this torment, and I will sacrifice my memories, my essence. Any remnants of my past, my joys, will belong to the swamp. They can remain safe in my love. I won't let anyone bear this pain." She felt her heart pulse with resolve, a rhythm echoing in step with the languished souls around her. "Very well," the woman agreed, her voice low and sultry, swirling around Rachel like smoke. "Let the truth be witnessed." With that, the shadows converged in a swirling tempest, enclosing Rachel. Within the chaos, she felt a flicker of warmth, the light of countless souls. Faces emerged from the depths of the swamp, twisted yet yearning for peace. Each wretched soul was a testament to her determination, crying out for release, and then she saw them, Tyler and Emma. "Mommy." Those sweet voices cut through the haze, filled with pure, innocent love. Their presence ignited something deep within her, resonating like music. Rachel reached out with trembling hands, her heart screaming in desperation. "Your sacrifice is given freely." The shadows echoed, their whispers turning venomous. "You will walk in their shadows, while your warmth keeps their spirits intact." Rachel clenched her fists, bracing against the tempest, knowing she would give anything to protect them. "Take my past, but let my love remain. They're my light. I refuse to be just a whisper of what I once was. If they can be free, I will carry them." The darkness roared in rebellion, the swamp bubbling and seething as if vehemently contesting her claim. In one final surge, the souls enveloped Rachel until she could hardly breathe. Then, something extraordinary happened. The memories of her children's laughter, hugs, endless love, they pierced through the fog, stronger than the shadows that sought to consume her. "Hold tight. We're with you." Their voices rang with clarity, igniting a fire within her. And with each memory she released to the swamp, the grip of darkness lessened, the faces of the tortured souls beginning to shift, transforming from anguish to hope. The woman stepped back, her sneer fading into something resembling shock. She could feel the weight dissipate as those once doomed souls began to drift, pulling free of the swamp's grasp. No. You will pay for this. The woman howled, rage surging through the shadows, fists of despair lashing out. But it was too late. The power of love enveloped Rachel in a brilliant glow, piercing the dark with a furious light. As souls flooded up and out of the swamp, freedom danced in the air around her. And the darkness began to fade, fading into echoes of cries long unheard, voices torn but moments away from salvation. In that radiant moment of clarity, as Tyler and Emma rushed to her, Rachel felt the chains of sacrifice break. "Mommy!" They wrapped their small arms around her, filling her with warmth and life. "I'm here. I'm here." And she held them tight, feeling the essence of her memories intertwine with theirs, a love so fierce it could shatter the night. With the spirits released and the shadows shrieking in defeat, the swamp roared one final time. But beneath the rising fog, Rachel stood impervious, a beacon for lost souls, radiant in defiance against despair. As the mist slowly lifted, Wraith Hollow began to breathe anew. Rachel and her children emerged from the swamp, the haunting whispers becoming fainter until they faded away completely, leaving echoes of resilience woven through the air. "Let us go home," she exclaimed, guiding her children firmly down the path as sunlight broke through the trees, illuminating their way. They turned away from the terror of Wraith Hollow, knowing the darkness had been quelled, if only for now. Behind them, the swamp lay silent, the retaliation of shadows no longer seeking to consume, but confined to remnants of what once was freed by a mother's love. As they reached the safety of their home, with weary eyes locked in the comfort of family, Rachel felt the last remnants of her sacrifice settle, a bittersweet cloak draped over her heart. She wouldn't lament the memories she had lost, for her essence now lived stronger than ever in the laughter of her children. Together, they embarked into a bright tomorrow, a tomorrow where love conquered darkness, and a feeble hope rose like the dawning sun. But just like that, murmurs echoed in the stillness, an undertone lingering. The shadows, though kneeling, were never truly gone. So, come back soon, because you never know what lies in the dark. This is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now, don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.